Hey, it's ODB from OLP and Lincoln Addict Podcast. Thanks so much for coming back and consuming the content. I had to put a throwback Miami Vice old school hat on, which is my nod to Glenn Fry. My dad and I love this song, Smuggler's Blues. That's the name of my 64 Lincoln Continental Convertible. But you're not here for that. Today, we're going to take a look at what you saw in the thumbnail, which is the 65 Lincoln Continental Convertible. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, so this car has sold, obviously, as you can see here, if you're consuming this on YouTube where I upload it. And if you're looking at the screen, you'll see that it sold for $78,000. So I'd like to talk a little bit about why it sold for that amount. And we've continued to see these cars increase in price, even for stock cars. And I think it's important that we just kind of break it down a little bit. If you haven't subscribed, please consider that. If you're new to the channel, it's free. Okay, so this one sold about 3 weeks ago on late July of 2025, so July 29th of 2025. And what we're looking at here is a 65 Lincoln Continental Convertible. Alamino interior. We'll talk about the paint. And what you see here in this front three-quarter shot on the passenger side is the iconic 65 front end. Oftentimes people ask, hey, what's the best year to have? And it's really based upon preference. Some folks like myself and my buddy Tony, we love the 65 front ends. Others kind of go, wow, the 63, 64 is kind of the end of the era that they liked. But again, it's all going to be preference for the most part. Bring a Trailer, of course, is where this listing's at. I have no affiliation to the seller or this website. We can see from their awesome overview, which they always provide, it does have AM, FM. It has AC. It has tilt steering, which that was a feature. And it is currently in Mississippi. We can see the VIN number here listed. What I'd like to do is jump over to just the small presentation that I put together. We know in the 65 model year, from a convertible standpoint, there are 3,356. The list price, not including tax, tag, that kind of stuff, and the extra options. Remember, air conditioning's $500-$600 feature, but these cars originally back in late 64 into 65 listed for $6,798 for the convertible base price. Now, I pulled this from Haggerty. I'm a customer of theirs, so I took this screenshot just a few minutes ago. We can see a Concourse 65 convertible is ringing in at $115K. By the way, look in the lower left corner, plus 10% for factory air condition. So easily $125 that you'll see for a Concourse car. Now, we know most of the cars that we see aren't going to be Concourse. We've seen Concourse cars go well above that, but certainly when you start to go, hey, ODB, you just said 78K, where does it fall in here? Easily between 2 and 3 condition. 2 is very strong. If you talk about excellent condition, has it been all gone through? I don't think this car necessarily is that. I think it's more along the Survivor, but the color of this car certainly caught someone's attention. The interior, it's a little bit different. We jokingly say it's, quote, not a black Lincoln. My buddy Tony started that hashtag a few years ago. So it's something a little bit different, but it's that iconic mid-60s Lincoln Continental that most of us just really adore. 99,000 miles currently shown. The assumption is it's probably not rolled over. I highly doubt it has 199,000 miles. You just often will see these cars under 100K. Current ownership, I think, is only put about 1,000 on, but it's worth noting in the comment section, I think the seller had mentioned that I think his dad or grandfather was the second owner. So it's a low owner car as well in terms of, ownership overall. It has all of the standard things there. Basically what you want to know is it's maroon paint. I talked a little bit about some of the options, which is the AM, FM. The FM side was an option technically, and then of course it is an AC car. The VIN plate, of course, Bring a Trailer does a great job breaking this stuff down, but I like to reinforce, if you look at those last 5 characters of the VIN on the door plate, you're going to see it's 36373, and that means it's the 36,373rd in that model year out of about 40,180. That includes, so there were 50 limos, and I think it was 40,180 without the 50 limos, I think is the total that I have. Basically, that just tells us out of the gate, we know it's a later production car in 65, which would be, well into 65, right? Because it's getting down towards the end. The significance there isn't really too much. I mean, in some of the years, if they have a late model edition in terms of a feature, certainly then you'll see that picked up potentially on a vehicle. 61, 62, we kind of had some of that with the door lock key cover, but for the most part, it's just more of an FYI. The VIN plate decoded again. I just copied this from Bring a Trailer, so we're going to bounce back over there in a second. But the main thing that you want to know is the destination sales office or destination sales district, if you will. E3, what does that tell us? California. So that's a key thing. It's a California car. What I'd like to do is bounce back over to the listing here, and we're going to kind of go through just a beautiful home here where the car, is photographed in front of. I think that's an important aspect. When you either take photos of your car or you have Bring a Trailer send out an associate, if you will. We can see the interior does look original. I love this aspect of it. Some folks may get this car and go, wow, I want to have pristine seats. I'm certainly more along the lines, if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, I like the originality. You could probably spend some time if you wanted to put some leather conditioner, but this is how the seats are typically going to look after 60 years. Oh, by the way, we can see that it has floor mats. I do assume that those are original. There is one of the usual suspect vendors, if you will, that make the floor mats, but we can certainly see the kind of the originality there with the interior. I do like the photos that they provided because they've also provided top up photos. Certainly, sitting inside the car, it gives you kind of a little bit of a perspective here for what you would see if you were to purchase this car. Now, again, I know some of you are going, wow, this car's already sold. I'd like to still spread the knowledge on some of the things you need to look for. My suggestion always is, if you're looking for one of these cars, sign up for a free user ID on Bring a Trailer. And based upon your search results, I think it's going to ask, do you want us to contact you? And you'll get an email when these cars list. This MEL, so Mercury Edsel Lincoln 430, is what you would expect in this car. We can see it does have the battery box, which is fairly rare. You don't always see those. We rarely ever see the battery hold down, which is no big deal. Nobody really has those on their cars anymore for these 60s Lincolns. But we do have a disconnect on the battery, which is key. That's going to keep any kind of the vampire power usage. If these cars sit for any length of time and relays aren't clicked off, or, a light in the glove box, it can drain the battery. I'm a big proponent or supporter rather of disconnecting the battery when you can. We can see that the AC, it looks like somebody has come in here and they did put some foam type stuff around these ports and whatnot, which is a good thing. That may indicate the air condition either is working or worked at some point. We can see it has a single pot reservoir. I'll often talk about, that was factory until a couple years later in 67. However, it is, of my opinion, especially if you don't have cruise control, it's a little bit easier. Most say that they've never seen it with cruise control, but this car does not have cruise. It would be an easy update, in my opinion, to go with a dual master. That way, if one part of your dual goes bad, like let's say you lose the rear brakes, you still would have the front brakes. We can see, of course, it is an air-conditioned car, which I mentioned. It does have the fan shroud, which is going to be key. An air-conditioned car is going to have an extra fan blade, as well as it's going to have, the fan shroud, which you would want, certainly, especially depending on where this car is going. There are some photos underneath the car, which is always important. There's not a ton, but there are some, but there's a lot of videos, which I'll talk about briefly from a positive aspect of this listing. There's driving videos as well. There's so many videos, and this is so key. You want to have those. Now, if I was looking to buy a car, or if somebody was going, hey, what do I want to look for? Oftentimes to me, you want to have an original car if you can, because then you can enjoy it if it's already running and driving. You can look to update it or change it or dial it in, so to speak, over the course of time if you so choose. Some of the things you may want to find out is, how old are the tires, things like that often aren't listed in a a particular listing. Again, you can see the kind of the grittiness. It still looks really good, but you know, this is the stuff I like. You could potentially buy this car, get some of your Griot's Garage products, and really kind of clean it up, spend a weekend or two with the family, with the kids, if you will, kind of going through it if that's something that you want to do. But to me, certainly it is in very good condition. We can see the trunk has a very nice carpet kit. You don't always see the quote finished trunks and what we kind of refer to as the toilet seat. This, of course, flaps up so that you could get the spare tire out. But I love seeing this. It does look like a Jim Wallace kit potentially. I have one of these that looks exactly in my 65, and I absolutely love it. We can see that it does have the bar here. I kind of call this the John Cashman bar because I believe, going back in history, he was the first person that really reinforced in 64 and 65 the engineering defect. If you have a convertible of these years, you want to add this bar. Spoiler alert, I have a quick video on my YouTube channel. You can spend about $10 to do it, and it goes in less than like 2 minutes. It's super easy. The hardest part is just cutting the bar to length, and it goes right in, but it definitely goes a long way. We do have the landing pads as well, so when the top is um, in the trunk, it kind of lands on these two pads. Those pads are getting harder to find. They're often discarded when these cars are taken apart, as are these covers. These covers are become kind of brittle and whatnot. So like when you see this, those are indications that, hey, this is a complete car. It's not a basket case, and you've got everything there. And that goes a long way because you start buying a car and then you have to start adding this and this and this. I mean, it's easy $300 hit here and there, if not more. We can see again with the DSO of California, it's got the California emissions, which is this little tube over to the oil filler cap. And again, that is California only. We can see John Cashman autographed. He doesn't ever put the date. But he does put the month and year, and that is worth its weight in gold, so to speak, because it's March of 2021. To have John come to your place, which he is back in business, easily $3 to $5 grand, depending on if it's just windows, is he looking at the top, things like that. But it's money well spent because often folks have a very, very hard time finding someone to want to work on these cars or do the job right. We can see it looks like it does have the original upper back panel set up with what we refer to as the hockey puck. So John probably dialed this in. This hockey puck, if you really want to get into it, it makes when this flapper is erect, if you will, as John would say, or it's tucked underneath. It makes sure that it goes all the way to where it needs to be. And of course, you've got this motor here that kind of does the heavy lifting, if you will. So it's good that that stuff has been serviced. I don't want to spend a lot of time underneath the car. There's not a ton of photos underneath it, but there are some, and that's really what counts. And we would want to make sure that it's not a rust bucket, and it's certainly not. You've got the normal, what I refer to as dinginess of a car of this era. You know, you've got some of the discoloration kind of just with the oil over the course of time, and some of the grit and grime. The key thing is, if this car is not in a warm climate area, you always want to make sure that they're not rusted out underneath. And certainly from what we can see there, it is not. There are some imperfections in the paint, and folks, I've said this time and time again, both my 64 and my 65, even though my 65 is way nicer than my 64, it has these, what I refer to as bubbles, okay? This does happen. It's not abnormal for these cars, especially in Florida where I'm at with the humidity. It will happen. It's going to take someone at some point to kind of just strip this thing down if you really want to dial it in and paint it and get rid of that glue and that adhesive, if you will, inside between the skeleton and the outer skin, if you will, of this deck lid. But certainly that could be fixed. That is totally normal, but it's great that the seller is showcasing that. We can see even underneath, this is a key photo because it would show you, how bad is that kind of rusting and some of that stuff underneath there. And we've seen far, far worse. It's not perfect, but this is kind of something that you're going to come to expect, especially if you've watched these videos. We can see John has been in here, of course, with his handiwork, and he has added, I believe, the convertible, to be able to do it on a key fob, I believe, and he also has labeled, which he likes to do, which helps, someone in the future if they have to do a quick service on it. John's always great at that. In closing, a couple things I wanted to mention. Tilt column. I've read, because the records have been destroyed many years ago in a fire, I've read 10 to 18% of the cars had tilt. It's tough to say, but I will tell you the tilt column is very nice. It started in 64. It's vacuum operated, and if it works, you just push the button at the end of the shift lever. If there's vacuum there, or if the car's running and everything's hooked up, it'll literally let you move from 5, 4, 3, 2 to low or to high. So if you're a bigger fellow, it definitely helps, with some of the knee room there. It works in my 65, and I do love it. Okay, we'll bounce back over here and close this out. What are the pros of the listing? It's a complete car. It runs and drives. There's tons of videos. There's receipts as well, including John Cashman. It's a tilt column and AC car, so it's adding value. Again, tilt column, fairly rare in the grand scheme of things. John Cashman bar, which I kind of say is, again, he was the first, I think, advocate for adding this to the 64 65s. So that's been done. It's a California car. I mean, there's so much positive in this car. And then really the key call outs is it's more of a survivor. So there's going to be things like an amp gauge that you may have to have rebuilt or bypassed. The timing setup on these cars, we often talk about those have to be redone. So in closing, I would say a car like this, if you're looking to buy one and you can afford to go a little bit higher end at the beginning, believe it or not, that does really help you in the grand scheme of things. Now, certainly you could easily take and put 10,000, 20, 50, 100 grand, and you're thinking, hey, how? Well, let's say you wanted to repaint the entire car, get a price from your local paint shop that you trust or that other people have used. And you're going to see easily if somebody said, hey, they're going to throw a number like 30 grand to repaint a car like that. If they come in a lot lower, they're going to be cussing themselves when they go to take it apart, because these cars are not super easy to take apart, right? I mean, no offense, I love 60s Impalas, but you could take apart, a 60s Chevrolet a lot easier. These cars are often kind of referred to as over-engineered, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. They do take a lot to take apart. They take a lot to restore. But if you can get a car like this and you go, hey, I want to enjoy it with the family, I want to put the top down, put the windows down, go cruise it, yeah, it's a solid price. I mean, it really is. I mean, you're bordering $80,000. These cars 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I mean, yeah, you could have gotten them a lot easier. But as I've said, with the lower production numbers, somebody gets to a certain age and they go, wow, I want to go ahead. I'm not getting any younger. I want to get me one of these cars. You're easily 50,000 plus to get in one. And oftentimes a $50,000 car isn't as nice as a $78,000 car. They are out there. As you can see, people are continuing to sell these cars. So rest assured, if you want one, don't lose faith. Keep the pedal stomped in terms of looking for one. Keep it tuned to Lincoln Addict channel and sign up for Bring a Trailer. Again, I have no affiliation with them, but I often tell people, if you're looking to sell your car, put it there. It is the place to go to sell one of these cars. Now, if you're on the very, very, very high end, especially the Resto Mod, a special kind of JFK lineage car, certainly there's going to be potentially some other spots, that you could sell the car. But for your average cars like these and some, even some nice and some, I would say, survivor cars, this is the place to go. With that being said, check out Lincoln Addict Podcast. I recently did a couple of episodes. And I think sometimes people hear podcasts, like I don't want to just listen to the audio. You watch the episode here and I talk about it. I share my screen and I go over different information. So certainly there's a lot of value that people tell me that they get out of those videos. Check it out. Thanks to all of the supporters out there. If you want to leave a tip or become a member here on YouTube, I appreciate it. But if nothing else, subscribe and leave a comment. ODB, we out of here. Have a safe weekend, everyone. And if I don't chat with you before Labor Day weekend, be safe then as well. Peace.